Hello children, you are welcome to this segment of the program, The Classroom in Your Home. It is mathematics time, and that means it is time to have some fun. Hi, I'm Nkwagbaje. Today in mathematics, we will continue our work on lines and angle. Today, specifically, we'll be looking at different types of angle between lines. But before we go into today's topic, we'll begin with a review of the correction to the previous assignments. You were asked to find the labeled angle. Here you were asked to find the value for y. Here you were to find a, b, and c. I'll just let the answers pop up and we'll say y. Now here, if we consider this line as a straight line, this is already 70 degrees. And that means that the remaining to complete the straight line is just 110. In other words, 110 is a supplement of 70. So on this line, we have 70 degrees. Here, B and 80 are facing each other at the junction. And you remember that when two angles are facing each other at the junction, we call them vertically opposite and they are equal. Therefore, this is 80. If this is 80, it joins C to form a semicircle on this straight line. And that angle on a straight line will add up to 180. So if this is 80, then this will be 100 to form 180 on that straight line. Now, if this is 100, then this is vertically opposite to it. They are facing each other at the junction. So if this is 100, this will also be 100. As for this one, you have a straight line. All the angle on a straight line will give you 180. So if this is 112, then 68 has to complete it to make 180. You get that by subtracting 112 from 180. So now I believe you got that right. And now I'm going to celebrate you with a chair. Now moving on to the learning objectives for today. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to identify corresponding angles. You should also be able to identify alternate angles. Now, I don't want you to get confused. In the last lesson, we talked about complementary and supplementary. And that in itself seems confusing. And we are now talking about two different types of angles again. Like I have promised you, I have a song to wrap up everything for you. Finally, you should be able to find missing angle using the knowledge of corresponding angle and alternate angles. So without wasting much time, let's just go straight to today's work. Study these lines, AB and CD. What kind of lines are they? What is the relationship between them? Observe that they are going in the same direction and the distance between them is the same along the line. So what type of lines do we call this? Observe that this place is the same thing with this place. We call these parallel lines. AB and CD are parallel to each other. Remember that we did this in our last lesson. Now, when you have parallel lines like this, going in the same direction, and you now have another straight line that is not parallel to them, crossing them, we call that line a transversal. This is a transversal, line EF. A transversal, once again, is a line that cuts two or more parallel lines. So to know a transversal, just draw parallel lines and draw a line across. You have a transversal. Now when you have a line crossing parallel lines like this, I've said that when you have a transversal crossing parallel lines like this, angles will be formed. And don't forget that angles are the spaces between two lines. So here, angles will be formed at this junction. This is an angle, this is an angle, this is an angle, this is also an angle. And the same thing at this junction. You will always have angles formed. And now, the kind of angles formed give rise to this kind of angles that we are going to study today. So, angles between lines. Corresponding angles are the first one that we will study. What are corresponding angles? Corresponding angles are angles that occupy the same position at the intersection points on a transversal. What are we talking about? This is a transversal. Let's call this E and F. It intersects here at this point. That means there is a junction. They meet at this point and at this point. To know corresponding angles, angles that occupy the same position, if we are to divide this position, we have top left and top right, bottom left and bottom right. On this side, on top of the line to the left, that's top left. On top of the line to the right, that's top right, bottom left and bottom right. Now, to know angles that are corresponding, you will pick those angles that occupy the same position. If this one is on top of the line to the right, that's top right, then you come here, top of the line to the right. Both of them are corresponding. If this one is bottom of the line to the left, then it is corresponding to this one, bottom of the line to the left. That's how you know corresponding angles. Corresponding angles can be remembered with the letter F. That is, to remember corresponding angle, try to locate an F on the diagram. For example, this is an F. So, if you put an angle on top, you have to put an angle on top. If you put an angle below, you have to put an angle below. If we draw another F here, or let me put it somewhere where you can see. Put one here, you have to put one here. These are the corresponding angles. So, that your F can face any direction. It can face the front or it can face the back like this. Like this. As long as the lines are parallel, you will get your corresponding angles. So here, X is corresponding to Y. Where is Y? This is X and this is Y. So this is the F you have to look for. F. Now on the first level, like on the first story building, first floor of the building, you put an angle and then you put an angle on the ground floor, but on top of both of them. These are corresponding angles. Now, it is also corresponding to G. How come X is corresponding to G? Because if I draw my F this way, see, now I'm drawing my F this way, my F is facing the top. So now, I put an angle to the right, I also put an angle to the right. These are corresponding angles. Let's move on. Here, M and N are corresponding as well. In this case, my F is facing the back. Okay, so if I put one below the line, I put one below the second line. As long as you are able to draw an F, you will find your corresponding angle. Corresponding angles are always equal. So if you know the value of this, and this is an F facing the back, you have drawn one angle below, then you have to draw another one below. So if this is 70, then this has to be 70. Corresponding angles are always equal. Now let's talk about alternate angles. Alternate angles occupy opposite positions. In a way, if you are to explain it to you, alternate angle, if one closes to the left, the other one will close to the right. So to alternate means to change position. For instance, if you are to arrange all the children in a class and you want to alternate boys and girls, then you will have boy, girl, boy, girl. But with angles, when you want to identify alternate angles, you will see them as angles that open, the one alternate to it will be closed. I will show you an example. Alternate angles can be remembered with Z. To find alternate angles, just draw the Z. If you are able to identify the Z, you will identify your alternate angle. Just put your angles inside the arms, the chicken arms like this of the Z. I'll show it to you now. A is alternate to B. Now, this is the Z. Now, the Z has an elbow here, so you put it inside the elbow like this. It also has an elbow here, so you put inside the second elbow. Now, A and B are alternate. A is also alternate to C, because if you draw your Z this way, then A goes inside the elbow and C goes inside the elbow. So A and C are alternate angles, and alternate angles are always equal. In this case, J and K are alternate because this is the Z, like this. It's like turning your Z upside down. So now alternate angles are also equal. So let's now look at some worked examples and see how we can use this knowledge to find some missing angles. The first question says, which angles correspond to the shaded angle below? Now this is the shaded angle here. This is the shaded angle right here. Which one is corresponding to it? Remember that we will identify corresponding angles with what letter? With the F letter. So the F can face to the front or face to the back or face up or face down. Have you identified the angle that is corresponding? Let's see what the answer is. The angle is angle 6. And why is that? Because this is our F. So if we draw an angle below on the first line or on the first level, then the corresponding angle has to be below on the second level. So 6 is the correct one. If you did not get that one right, perhaps you will get the next one. Which angle is alternate to the angle that is shaded? Remember that alternate angles are inside the elbow of the Z letter. Now that Z can face to the right or to the left, to the top or down. So which angle is alternate? Well, it is angle 4, and I will tell you where the Z is. This is that Z. Okay, so if one is inside the elbow, the other one will be on this elbow right there. So that is the angle that is alternate. So the Z is sort of coming like this. Okay, so we have one angle here and the other. And remember what I said about open and close. Where this one is closing downwards, this one is going upwards. So that is the Z angle. Let's see whether you get this one right. Which angle is alternate? This one should be easy for you. Find the Z, and the Z is rightly positioned. It is angle 1. Let's see why. Because this is the Z. And so, if one angle is inside this elbow, the other one will be inside the other elbow, like this. So don't forget that your Z can come in any shape. It can be like this. If one is here, the other one will be here for alternate angle. It can face up like this. If one is here, the other one has to be here. As long as it's a Z and the lines here are parallel, you will get your alternate angles. You have to find the missing angles below. Now here, it's very easy to see that A is 64. Do you know why? This angle is 64 because this angle is 64. And what is the relationship? They are vertically opposite angles. They are facing each other. So if this is 64, this will be 64. So using that knowledge, can we find B? Let me write 64 here. What is the relationship between this angle opening and this one closing? Do you remember? Can you identify the letter involved? I will identify it for you. It's a Z. And angles in the Z elbow are called alternate angle, and alternate angles are always equal. So this is 64 and this is 64 as well, because they are vertically opposite. And if this one is 64, this one will also be 64 because they are alternate angles. So you see, my friend, When you're faced with a diagram of this nature, do not be scared. Just use what you know to get all the angles that you don't know. It's either you have angles on a straight line, or you have them to be corresponding angles, or you have them to be alternate angles. Now it's your turn to do this. I'll give you 30 seconds to find the missing angles, and I'll be right back. Alrighty then, I believe you have your answer by now. Let's just see how it's worked out. On this line, angles on a straight line is 180 degrees. So if this is 112, the remaining we have to subtract from 180 to know the remaining. So we subtract 112 from 180 and we get 68 because they are angles on a straight line. Now, if this is 68, what will this angle be? Remember open and close? What is the shape? Open, close. The shape here is Z that is facing backwards. So if this is 68, as we have found out, this will also be 68 degrees because both X and Y are alternate angles. I believe that is what you got, my friend. Now we're gradually coming to the end of the lesson. We've talked about so many types of angle, and I did promise you that I have a song that helps you summarize everything so that you don't get them confused. This is the song right here. The wordings go thus: there are different types of angles, but don't be entangled, and that means don't be confused. No, we have corresponding, and then you remember you have to put the F, corresponding and vertically opposite. Remember, X is for vertically opposite. Then complementary is for 90, so you put your arms like this to do the 90-degree angle, and supplementary 180, the straight line angle. Okay, then just to emphasize that complementary is for 90 so that you don't get confused, say 90, then you say so for supplementary, so 180. So I will sing the song now, listen attentively. There are different types of angles, but don't be entangled, no. We have corresponding and vertically opposite. Complementary 90, supplementary 180. As in 90 and so 180. I'll take it again. There are different types of angles, but don't be entangled, no. We have corresponding and vertically opposite. Complementary 90 and supplementary 180. As in 90 and so 180. Sing it at home. There are different types of angles, but don't be entangled, no. We have corresponding and vertically opposite. Complementary 90 and supplementary 180. 90, so 180. Good job, you. Keep on singing and keep on practicing that. You should not miss your way. Now I have this homework for you. Copy, and I'll be on hand in the next class to help you out with the correction. We have come to the end of the lesson. I will now hand you over to Uncle Popo for the General Studies class. Till I come your way next time, remain wonderful mathematicians.